Should we
The
jump
Marvel
into it?
Superheroes 1966. So if there's anyone here as old as we are, I'm looking at you, Geek Flag. You caught it in my opening monologue. The reciting or singing. I was trying to sing the lyrics from the opening of the Marvel Superheroes from 1966. You'll notice these are some very classic bits of artwork here. These were from the promotional materials for the cartoon, 1966 cartoon. You will recognize this very famous Jack Kirby artwork. Just absolutely ingenious use of this artwork. What's interesting is that this was a very low budget cartoon. It was barely a cartoon. This was more like, nowadays we would call them motion comics, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where
yeah.
You're shown, it's like you're reading a comic on screen, right? But where there's motion, they will do like a cut and paste of like a superhero moving across, or they'll do a what do they call it, an onomatopoeia, and then you'll see the bad guy flying off screen. But it's like a cutout. It's very much like Monty Python type of animation.
I remember years back, DC had done a Watchmen motion comic when the movie came out. And it was, and I said, oh, so this is what how we have audiobooks for regular books. This is an audiobook for a comic book where you had a guy reading it, and they would go to each panel and kind of, do some camera work on the panels. But it was, I don't know if that was similar to what you saw here. Of course, they probably didn't have the bubble boxes in the show, right?
And of course, this was all narrated and they had voice actors and so forth. Speaking of motion comics, they did a motion comics for after Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the series ended, they did another season in comics, and I got a DVD of that, that comic, and it's basically a motion comic, and I've got it up on my shelf with, I even made a custom cover of it so it matches all the seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But that's what I loved about this cartoon. We always talk about, honor the source material. Talk about freaking honoring the source material. They were literally taking comic stories, panel for panel, and turning them into motion comics with voice actors. That's what these were. And yes, they reused, this scene, this shot of Thor showed up probably in every Thor episode, when he's, and you wouldn't see his mouth moving. It wasn't clutch cargo or anything like that. And that was especially easy with Iron Man because, Iron Man, right? Sound effects were great. He had that, they must have had him talking into like a tin can or something, because it had that kind of, it was really, really cool. But the story's taken directly from the comics. It was brilliant.
Like Zemo and the Masters of Evil.
Yep, this is how I was not a Marvel Comics reader when I was a kid. This was where I got all of my first Marvel knowledge of these characters.
For me, a lot of DC stuff came from those cartoons I grew up with. Sadly to say, more so than the comics.
Ruby Spears and whatnot.
Yeah, or even the Warner Brothers stuff that came out later. But this was I have a question. This Captain America from the 60s, was this where he got found? Were they doing the Found in the Ice storyline at that point?
Yep. Yes,
okay, so in the 60s, he was found in the ice. Yeah, all right.
They actually started with, no. They started with World War II stories. So he was fighting Zemo. He was fighting the the German National Socialists.
Because there were actual Captain America comics during World War II. Right.
Yes, there
were. Then they redid those in the 60s.
They did.
Okay,
all right. They did in the 60s. Basically, they did his origin story. So imagine, First Avenger, right? They basically did that story directly from the comics, right up through, the jumping out of the plane, and it's a little different in the comics than it is in the movie. But the plane is destroyed. Bucky is presumed dead, and he was dead. He was dead at this time in history. As far as Cap knew, he was dead. So there was we don't even get to what was his name?
Winter Soldier
in the movies. Yeah, he didn't become Winter Soldier until like the 90s.
Yeah, that's much later. I know. Yeah.
So as far as anyone was concerned, Bucky died in World War II, the same time that Cap went into the ice and got frozen. And they do that whole story. He jumps out of the plane, goes into the ice, and is frozen. They make it very clear he didn't die because the super soul serum put him into suspended animation. The next episode that you see Captain America in, Namor is finding him in the ocean, frozen in a block of ice. Brings him to the event.
Oh, hence why we saw Namor in the cover here.
Yep.
So the Submariner, right?
So what they did with these characters was kind of brilliant in that whole Avengers Assemble kind of way, right? All of these, every week that they would do this comic, I'm doing it again. This cartoon. You would have a different character. It might be Iron Man, it might be Captain America, Namor, Thor, whatever.
Or
right?
the Incredible Hulk.
And then, if the story merited it, they would bring them together, as the Avengers. And they didn't do it as a big, Avengers Assemble kind of thing. It was just like they were already the Avengers. They thought out Captain America. He joins the Avengers, and they just kind of continue on. They continue to do their own separate stories, crossing over, just the way the comics did, because, again, they were drawing directly from the comic book stories.
And I did watch one of those Iron Man shorts. It was him versus Titanium Man, who I guess was the Soviet answer to Iron Man, right?
Yep.
Exactly. I keep thinking that's what the Jeff Bridges villain in the first Iron Man movie was probably based on that, right? But
now,
a Soviet in that, obviously.
Now, again, this is 1966 that this came out. I did not see it until the early to mid 70s, okay, when it was, in reruns on TV. And so you've got to remember, this was like 5-6-year-old Troy, right? And there was a Thor episode where he was fighting some lava men. Oh, that was the other thing. They capitalized on the comic book trope of the cliffhanger, right? To get you to come back for the next episode.
Of course.
One episode ended with Thor fighting the magma men, and he's trapped in lava, and he's sinking into the lava. And that's how it ended. And I was at my grandmother's house watching it when I saw this, and I kind of freaked out. So I was like, Thor's going to die. And my mom's like, no, he's not. Next episode, he's going to get out of it. This is how it always goes. Because my mom knew. She used to watch Buck Rogers and, Lone Ranger and all these kinds of things. She knew how the serials worked, But it bothered me. I didn't want to watch Thor anymore because I thought Thor was going to die. I didn't want to watch it anymore.
I was just thinking you got home the next day, the show comes on, and you see Tony Stark lamenting, pity Thor had to drown in all that lava. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I'm starting to wonder now if Leia Plus Size and I are like somewhere around the same age. You don't need to answer that. Never ask a woman her age,
All right. But so that was the original Marvel. This was the original MCU, I guess, wasn't it?
I am glad you're going in chronological order.
We're doing chronological, yes.
Because that is going to help, because some of the things these kind of build on.
Yeah.
My experience with these characters kind of build on this. So that's good that you do that.